Strong men never say these 5 things. You think strength is what you say out loud. It isn't. Strength is what never leaves your mouth. What if I told you that a single sentence can expose weakness faster than failure ever could? That men don't collapse because life is hard, but because their language quietly betrays them long before reality does. Words are not harmless. They are rehearsals. Every phrase you repeat trains your nervous system, sharpens your character, or corrodes it. Strong men don't announce strength. They delete weakness from their vocabulary. Most men never notice this because language feels innocent. It isn't. Language is behavioral conditioning disguised as communication. What you say becomes what you tolerate. What you tolerate becomes what you become. This is not about politeness. This is about power. Inner power, psychological authority, existential weight. Weak men reveal themselves not by what they fear, but by what they excuse, by what they externalize, by what they emotionally outsource. You can hear defeat before you see it. You can hear chaos forming before it explodes. Strong men hear it too. That's why they never say certain things, even in private. Especially in private. Stoicism was never about silence for virtue. It was about linguistic discipline. Control the tongue, and you interrupt the spiral between impulse and decay. Modern psychology confirms what ancient philosophy already knew. The mind obeys repetition. Say something often enough, and the brain accepts it as truth, even if it destroys you. Most men are not trapped by circumstances. They are trapped by phrases they repeat daily without noticing the cost. This video is not here to motivate you. It is here to audit you. 5 sentences, each one socially acceptable, each one psychologically lethal, each one incompatible with strength, responsibility, and self-command. If even one of them lives in your mouth, you don't have a motivation problem. You have an identity leak. And leaks sink ships silently. Strong men don't need affirmations. They need verbal amputations. They remove phrases that weaken resolve, fracture accountability, and outsource agency. This is not self-help. This is self-exposure. If you stay until the end, you won't feel inspired. You'll feel cornered. Because once you hear these phrases clearly, you can never unhear them again. And that's the point. The first phrase never sounds weak. That's why it's so dangerous. It's not my fault. This sentence is the psychological anesthetic of modern men. It numbs responsibility. It dissolves authorship. It turns life into a courtroom where you are always the defendant and never the judge. The moment those words leave your mouth, something precise happens inside your mind. Agency collapses. Your nervous system shifts from command to defense. You stop acting and start explaining. Strong men don't explain themselves to reality. They respond to it. Blame feels intelligent because it sounds analytical. It isn't. It's emotional outsourcing disguised as logic. Marcus Aurelius understood this with brutal clarity. If the cause of your suffering is always external, then your power is always absent. And a man without power will invent endless narratives to protect his pride. Psychology confirms the same pattern. Externalization reduces stress in the short term and destroys competence in the long term. The brain learns that effort is optional when excuses are available. Weak men say, "It's not my fault," because they fear the weight of authorship. Responsibility demands transformation. Blame demands nothing. Notice the hidden tragedy. The man who refuses responsibility believes he is protecting himself. In reality, he is amputating his future. Nietzsche warned about this instinct, the instinct to escape becoming, to avoid the pain of self-overcoming by turning every failure into a grievance. Stoicism cuts through this illusion mercilessly. You don't control events, you control your response. And the response begins with language. Every time you remove blame from your vocabulary, pressure returns to where it belongs, inside. That pressure is not cruelty, it is fuel. Strong men accept fault even when they are not guilty. Not because they enjoy suffering, but because ownership is leverage. When you own the outcome, you own the adjustment. When you own the adjustment, you own the future. Say, "It's not my fault" often enough, and your mind learns helplessness. Say nothing, act anyway, and your character hardens. This is the first sentence strong men delete, because strength begins where excuses end. And the next phrase is even more seductive. The second phrase sounds confident. That's why it rots men from the inside. "I already know." This sentence kills growth quietly. No collapse, no drama, just stagnation disguised as certainty. The moment a man says, "I already know," curiosity dies. And when curiosity dies, learning follows it into the grave. Strong men fear this sentence more than ignorance. Ignorance can be corrected, false certainty cannot. Psychologically, this phrase locks the mind into a closed loop. The brain stops updating models. New information is filtered as noise. Reality knocks and the door stays shut. Epictetus was ruthless about this. No man can learn what he believes he has already mastered. Not because the world refuses to teach him, but because his ego refuses to listen. This is where arrogance masquerades as strength. The man who claims certainty feels superior. In truth, he is brittle. Jung would call this identification with the persona. You confuse what you know with who you are, so any challenge to your ideas feels like an attack on your identity. That's why weak men defend opinions with emotion. They are not protecting truth, they are protecting themselves. Stoic strength is the opposite posture. It is disciplined humility, the ability to say, "I might be wrong, and I will survive that fact." Socrates understood this before all of them. Wisdom begins where certainty ends, not with self-doubt, but with openness to correction. Modern psychology confirms the cost. Men who believe they already know stop adapting, and systems that stop adapting decay. Notice the tragedy. The man who says, "I already know," believes he has arrived. In reality, he has stopped moving. Existentially, this is death in slow motion. Life is tension between what you are and what you could become. Certainty cuts the wire. Strong men remain students even when they are masters. Especially then, they listen harder, they question deeper, they treat understanding as provisional, never final. Because the moment you stop learning, life starts teaching you through pain instead. And pain is a brutal instructor. This phrase never announces weakness, it whispers it. Delete it, and you reopen the future. Keep it, and you slowly fossilize. The next phrase doesn't block growth, it kills courage before action even begins. The third phrase sounds realistic. That's why it destroys more lives than failure ever could. That's impossible. This sentence ends battles before they begin. Not because the obstacle is real, but because the imagination has surrendered. Strong men understand a brutal psychological truth. The brain treats declared impossibility as a command. Once spoken, effort shuts down, energy collapses, vision narrows. You didn't assess reality. You sentenced yourself. Seneca exposed this illusion centuries ago. It is not that things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things appear difficult. Modern behavioral psychology agrees. Perceived impossibility triggers avoidance circuits. The nervous system chooses safety over growth, comfort over expansion, stagnation over risk. Weak men call this realism. It isn't. It's fear wearing logic as a disguise. Notice the deeper tragedy. When a man says, "That's impossible," he isn't describing the world. He is confessing the limits of his tolerance for discomfort. Nietzsche saw this clearly. Man does not fear pain. He fears the meaning of pain, and declaring impossibility is how he escapes that meaning. Stoicism rejects this escape entirely. Difficulty is not a verdict, it is feedback. Strong men don't ask if something is possible. They ask what it will cost and whether they are willing to pay it. That question keeps agency intact. The other kills it. Every major transformation begins inside a field of uncertainty. No proof, no guarantees, only commitment before clarity. Existentially, this is where character is forged. You either step forward without certainty or you retreat with excuses. Saying that's impossible feels safe, but safety has a hidden price. It teaches the mind to avoid challenge by default. Say it often enough and your life shrinks without resistance. Quietly, politely, irreversibly. Strong men delete this phrase not because they are reckless, but because they understand the cost of surrendering before the test. They replace it with action or silence, because silence leaves the door open. Words can lock it forever. The next phrase doesn't surrender to fear. It pretends not to feel anything at all. The fourth phrase pretends to be strength. In reality, it is emotional bankruptcy. I don't care. This is not detachment. It is retreat. Strong men care deeply. They simply choose carefully what deserves that care. When a man says, "I don't care," he's often lying to himself. What he means is, "I feel overwhelmed, powerless, or afraid of failing, so I will pretend indifference." Psychologically, this phrase is dissociation. The nervous system numbs itself to avoid responsibility. The cost is clarity. Stoicism never taught indifference to life. It taught precision of concern. To separate what is within your control from what is not, and then act ferociously where agency exists. Epictetus was explicit. A man who claims not to care about everything has abandoned his post. Virtue requires engagement. Indifference to character is decay. Weak men use "I don't care" as camouflage. They fear effort. They fear commitment. They fear being judged by outcomes. So they detach before they can be tested. Existentially, this is refusal to choose. And refusing to choose is still a choice. A destructive one. Viktor Frankl understood this in the darkest conditions imaginable. Meaning is not found by numbing yourself. It is found by taking responsibility even when suffering is unavoidable. "I don't care" sounds protective. It isn't. It trains the psyche to avoid significance. Say it long enough and nothing matters. And when nothing matters, discipline collapses. Purpose dissolves. You drift. Strong men never declare indifference lightly. They withdraw emotion from illusions, not from values. They care about their word, their actions, their standards, their response to chaos. They refuse to care about applause, outcomes, or approval. That distinction is everything. Delete this phrase and something uncomfortable happens. Responsibility returns. So does pressure. Good. Pressure is the environment where strength is built. The next phrase exposes something even darker, not fear, not detachment, but naked self-interest. The fifth phrase reveals the core defect, not weakness of skill, weakness of character. What's in it for me? This sentence reduces life to a transaction, every action weighed, every choice measured, every relationship audited for profit. Strong men hear this phrase and recognize decay immediately, because the moment a man asks this question first, he has already surrendered meaning. Psychologically, this is short-term reward dominance. The brain prioritizes immediate gain over long-term identity. Utility replaces values. Convenience replaces principle. Erich Fromm warned about this trap, the shift from being to having, from character to consumption, from contribution to extraction. A man who lives this way is never satisfied. Because transactions end, meaning compounds. Stoicism destroys this mindset without mercy. Marcus Aurelius framed it clearly. What harms the whole cannot benefit the part. A man who serves only himself slowly isolates himself from reality. Weak men see life as a marketplace. Strong men see it as a proving ground. Existentially, this phrase is spiritual poverty. It asks life to justify itself to you, instead of asking who you must become to be worthy of life's demands. Nietzsche saw the cost. The man who chases advantage loses gravity. He becomes reactive, predictable, easy to manipulate. Strong men do not ask what they get. They ask what the moment requires of them. They act from identity, not incentive. This is not altruism. It is strategic depth. Men who contribute gain leverage in ways selfish minds cannot calculate. Trust, reputation, inner coherence. What's in it for me feels smart. It isn't. It trains the mind to abandon duty when reward is unclear. Say it often enough and you become unreliable to others and eventually to yourself. Strong men delete this phrase because they understand something brutal. A life built on extraction collapses the moment extraction is no longer possible. A life built on contribution endures pressure. These 5 phrases share one function. They remove responsibility from the self, excuses, certainty, surrender, numbness, self-interest. Each one sounds reasonable. Each one erodes strength. Now comes the confrontation. What replaces them? You've seen what strong men never say. Now comes the part most men avoid. Silence. After these phrases are removed, there is a vacuum. And vacuums are dangerous. They demand something fill them. Weak men rush to replace deleted phrases with motivational noise. Strong men don't. They replace language with posture. Stoicism was never verbose. It was surgical. Remove what weakens. Say less. Do more. When excuses disappear, responsibility has nowhere to hide. When false certainty is gone, learning resumes. When impossibility is unsaid, action becomes possible. When indifference is stripped away, values resurface. When self-interest shuts up, meaning speaks. This is the psychological pivot. Most men fail here. They want new phrases, mantras, affirmations, verbal armor. That is cowardice dressed as progress. Strong men don't talk themselves into strength, they act themselves into it. Language is not used to feel better, it is used to stay aligned. Epictetus understood this deeply. Control begins where commentary ends. The more a man narrates himself, the less he governs himself. Modern psychology confirms it. Excessive self-talk increases emotional volatility. Minimal language sharpens execution. Strong men speak when words serve action. They remain silent when words would replace it. This silence is not passivity, it is compression, like a coiled spring. Existentially, this is where identity stops being declared and starts being demonstrated. You don't announce discipline, you submit to it. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Most men don't lack knowledge. They lack restraint. They say too much, explain too much, justify too much. Silence removes the escape routes. When nothing is said, excuses have no oxygen. When nothing is said, fear must either act or retreat. When nothing is said, reality becomes the only feedback loop. This is why strong men sound simple, not because they are shallow, but because complexity has been burned away by action. If you delete these 5 phrases and replace them with silence, something happens fast. Your standards rise. Your tolerance for nonsense collapses. Your behavior tightens, and people feel it without you saying a word. But silence alone is not enough. It must be guided. Silence without structure becomes emptiness. Strong men don't empty themselves. They organize themselves. After weak language is removed, something must govern the mind. Not emotion, not impulse, principle. This is where discipline stops being a tactic and becomes an operating system. Stoicism never asked men to feel less. It asked them to obey better laws. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire while ruling himself first, not through motivation, through internal legislation. Strong men replace weak phrases with internal commands, unspoken rules that shape behavior without negotiation. Psychology calls this self-regulation. Philosophy calls it virtue. Reality calls it reliability. When a man has no internal code, language fills the gap. He talks, explains, defends, negotiates with himself. When a man has a code, words become unnecessary. Decisions are pre-made. Standards are non-negotiable. This is why strong men sound calm under pressure. They are not improvising morality in chaos. They are executing rehearsed principles. Viktor Frankl observed this under extreme conditions. Men who survived meaning did not ask how they felt. They asked what the situation demanded of them. That question is power. Weak men ask how to escape discomfort. Strong men ask how to respond with integrity. Notice the shift from emotion to obligation, from preference to responsibility. This is existential adulthood. Carl Jung would describe this as integration, the alignment of instinct, value, and action. No inner civil war, no self-betrayal. Strong men do not argue with themselves in public. They resolved the argument in private long ago. This is the cost most men avoid: internal confrontation, deciding who they are before life decides for them. Once this structure is installed, language changes automatically. You don't need to censor phrases. They no longer fit your identity. Excuses feel foreign. Certainty feels suspicious. Indifference feels dishonest. Self-interest feels small. Not because you memorized rules, but because your standards grew heavier than your comfort. This is the quiet transformation no one applauds, but everyone respects. And once this internal law exists, the external world changes how it treats you. The final chapter exposes that consequence. Once that internal law is installed, the world reacts, not magically, mechanically. Strong men don't demand respect. They generate gravity. People listen differently, not because you speak louder, because you speak less and act cleaner. This is behavioral economics at the human level. Consistency compounds trust. Predictability of principle creates safety, and safety attracts cooperation. Weak men try to control perception. Strong men control alignment. Schopenhauer understood this cruelty. The world does not reward intention. It responds to structure, to reliability under pressure. When your language is clean, your actions become legible. Others know where you stand without asking. That clarity is rare, and rarity creates value. Psychologically, this shifts power dynamics immediately. Men who explain themselves lose leverage. Men who move with quiet coherence gain it. Jung would call this symbolic authority. You embody something others lack: integration, self-command, internal order. That order is felt before it is understood. This is why strong men are often misunderstood early and respected later. They don't perform strength, they let time prove it. Existentially, this is alignment between word, will, and action. No performance gap, no private collapse behind public confidence. Most men chase admiration. Strong men accept solitude during construction. They know something uncomfortable. You cannot be understood while you are still becoming. This chapter is the external consequence of internal discipline. Not applause, not validation, but influence without force. When you remove weak language, you remove negotiation with mediocrity, and the world adapts. Some resist, some retreat, some rise. That sorting is inevitable, but there is a deeper danger now. Once strength forms, it attracts pressure. Strength is expensive. That's the part no one advertises. Once you stop speaking weakness, life raises the stakes. Pressure increases. Expectations sharpen. Errors cost more. Strong men are not protected from suffering. They are trusted with heavier loads. This is the price of coherence. Most men fantasize about strength without calculating its cost. They want the authority without the weight, the respect without the responsibility. That fantasy collapses fast. Nietzsche warned about this moment. When the individual outgrows the herd reacts. Not always with hostility, often with tests. Can you carry what you claim to be? Psychologically, this is where many men self-sabotage. They reintroduce weak language under pressure, subtle phrases, soft exits, justifications disguised as nuance. Strength requires linguistic vigilance, not paranoia, precision. When stress rises, language wants to regress. Old phrases knock again. Excuses feel tempting. Certainty feels comforting. Indifference feels safe. This is the real battlefield. Stoicism does not promise peace. It promises readiness. Marcus Aurelius wrote for himself, not the crowd, because leadership begins when no one is watching. Strong men learn to suffer without narrating it, not because pain is shameful, but because narration dilutes endurance. Endurance grows in silence. Existentially, this is maturity, accepting that a meaningful life will never feel light, only solid. Those who abandon weak phrases must replace them with something heavier than comfort: duty, purpose, self-respect. And once you accept this cost, something stabilizes. You stop bargaining with reality. Control is the last illusion to die, and the most dangerous one. Weak men want control over outcomes. Strong men build control over response. The difference decides everything. Psychologically, the need for control is anxiety in disguise. The mind tries to reduce uncertainty by domination, by prediction, by force. But reality doesn't negotiate. Stoicism dismantles this illusion without mercy. You do not command events. You command judgment. And judgment commands action. Epictetus was precise. If you mistake influence for control, life will break you repeatedly until the lesson sticks. Strong men don't try to bend the world. They harden themselves against it. This is not resignation. It is strategic humility. Existential philosophy exposes the same truth. You are thrown into conditions you did not choose. Meaning emerges not from mastery of life, but from authorship of response. Men obsessed with control panic when plans collapse. Men grounded in response adapt when plans die. Language reveals which one you are. Phrases like, "This shouldn't be happening," expose entitlement. Strong men don't say that. They ask what is required now. This shift is brutal. It strips fantasy. It removes the illusion of fairness. It replaces comfort with clarity, but clarity is power. Jung would call this confrontation with reality integration. No projection, no denial, no bargaining, just acceptance followed by action. Strong men don't waste language fighting facts. They reserve words for decisions. Once this illusion dissolves, something rare appears: calm under chaos. Not emotional numbness, cognitive dominance. This is why strong men seem unshakable. They are not calm because life is easy. They are calm because they stop demanding control. When language changes, identity follows, not symbolically, neurologically. You don't become strong by thinking differently. You become strong by speaking differently under pressure. Every phrase you remove rewires a habit loop. Cue, response, outcome. Behavioral psychology is ruthless about this. The brain does not obey values. It obeys patterns. Weak language reinforces weak patterns. Strong language disappears because strong patterns no longer need it. This is the bridge most men never cross. They collect ideas. They admire philosophy. They quote thinkers. But their language stays the same. So their behavior stays the same, so their life stays the same. Stoicism was never intellectual decoration. It was operational discipline. Marcus Aurelius didn't write to sound wise. He wrote to stay functional. Strong men don't announce transformation. They let repetition do the work. Silence replaces excuses. Questions replace certainty. Action replaces commentary. Contribution replaces extraction. This is the before and after no one posts online. Because it isn't dramatic, it's durable. Existentially, this is self-authorship. You stop inheriting language from fear, culture, or impulse. You choose it, and what you choose repeatedly becomes character. Most men wait for motivation to change. Strong men change the environment of their mind. Language is the fastest lever. This is why deleting 5 phrases alters everything. Not because the phrases were evil, but because they were permissions. Permissions to avoid, to explain, to withdraw, to bargain with self-respect. Remove the permissions and the system recalibrates. You feel exposed at first, less protected, more accountable, good. That discomfort is integrity forming. Commitment is not a feeling. It is a contract you stop renegotiating. This is where most men fail after insight. They agree intellectually, then reopen debate emotionally. Strong men don't. Once weak language is removed, the mind will test you. It will whisper exceptions. Just this once, given the circumstances, you deserve a break. That whisper is not you. It is conditioning fighting extinction. Psychology calls this extinction burst. When a habit loses power, it intensifies briefly before dying. Language resurfaces under stress. Old phrases try to reclaim territory. This is the real trial. Not whether you understand, but whether you hold the line. Stoicism treats commitment as non-negotiable alignment. You do what you decided was right long before emotions arrive. You do not revisit the decision mid-storm. Seneca warned about this exact weakness. A man who debates himself during action has already lost coherence. Existentially, commitment is how freedom is earned. Not freedom from obligation, freedom from internal chaos. Strong men simplify life by narrowing choice. They remove internal democracy. One authority remains. That authority is not impulse, not mood, not comfort, it is principle. When commitment solidifies, something profound happens. Anxiety drops, not because risk disappears, but because inner conflict does. You stop arguing with yourself. Energy returns. Focus sharpens. This is why discipline feels liberating after it feels oppressive. Order replaces negotiation. Language aligns automatically. You don't need to monitor speech. Your identity filters it. At this stage, people notice a shift they cannot explain. You seem calmer, more decisive, less reactive. You didn't become colder. You became clearer. Finally, strength answers one question most men avoid their entire lives. What remains when you are gone? Not reputation. Not words, not intentions. Patterns. The way you handled pressure, the standards you refused to lower, the language you never allowed to poison your mind. Legacy is not built by speeches. It is built by consistency when no one is impressed. Strong men don't leave motivation behind, they leave examples. Existential philosophy is ruthless here. You do not escape meaning by ignoring it. You either author it deliberately or leave it unfinished. Most men leave fragments, unkept promises, unresolved contradictions, language full of excuses they normalized for years. Strong men leave coherence. Their presence simplifies others. Their silence sets a standard. Their actions teach without instruction. Viktor Frankl understood this at the edge of human suffering. Meaning is not what you say life owes you. It is what life can demand from you, and you answer anyway. This is the transformation. From reactive language to authored identity. From noise to signal. From impulse to principle. You no longer ask who you want to be. You live as if the answer has already been given. 5 phrases removed, 1 spine installed. Not perfection, direction, not dominance. Depth, not control, command of self. This is what strong men never say, and what they quietly become instead. If this cut deeper than comfort, it did its job.